Hi, my name is Monty Tisland. Today we're going to be talking about SRS charting. Specifically, we're going to be going over some basic charting items. Those items include charts, gauges, maps, data bars, sparklines, and indicators. Not necessarily in that order. But before we get started, let's talk about some housekeeping items. One thing with Epicor, when you install SSRS, it installs it in a standard location. That standard location, when you're actually searching for it, is if you open Internet Explorer and you type in the address http://server name /reports. This is the standard location. You have to make sure that security is set up so that everybody can actually browse it, and there's a few people that actually have permissions to actually create them, but that's set for another meeting. So anyway, going forward, this is the standard location. There's also some basic terminology that we need to identify here. One of them would be values, another is category groups, and the third one is series. As you can see on the example in front of us, the values are the values on the left of the chart. The category groups go across the bottom, and the series, obviously in this case there's two different lines. They show the different series lines. If you throw it on a 3D chart, the series would actually appear to be going into the page. So now let's talk about some demonstrations here. So now we got in here, we have, this is the SSRS reporting services. As you can see on the menu bar here, or on the address bar, you have http://cbepicor10/reports. Now I'm kind of farther down than that. I'm down into training reports, custom reports, and I'm in a folder called Monty where I have these 4 reports. These are just specifically templates that I've made for this demonstration. In order to edit these at this point in time, we can press the report builder from the menu bar here, or if you hover over these, you get this arrow. If you drop down, you can actually go to the bottom, you can select edit and report builder. Now I will tell you that that report builder, if it's not installed in your machine, will install and open properly if you're using Internet Explorer. If you're using Firefox, it's just going to ask you to try to open the file or save the file, and you can't get anywhere. So don't know if that's a setting in Firefox, but just keep that in mind. So I actually have this open here. This is the bar template, or the bar chart template. I already have a data source and a data set up. So now let's talk about a chart here. So let's insert a blank chart onto the report here. So if we go to insert, we go to chart, we're going to insert the chart. I'm not going to use the wizard at this point in time. I'm going to drag and show it down here as a screen. We're going to leave it as a standard column chart. So if I select this again, and you notice where I selected that we have the chart data. So we can enter these again. Now here we have the terminology again, the values, we have the category groups, and the series groups. Now there's 2 different ways in order to populate this data. I can come over here to my data set, and I can drag and drop that all the way across here and drop it in here, which is problematic. You have to be careful that you don't drop that onto another item that's on there, because sometimes as you're dragging across it, it'll just grab it, and then now you have some reports that look really weird. The easiest way for me is to select the yellow plus up here. We're going to put the sum totals on that one, and we're going to put the order month in that one. So if we preview the report, it has a simple report. Okay, but as we looked in our data set, we actually have the year. So if I click it and click this again, now I've selected the chart. We're going to add the year as the series group. Now you see the chart changes. One thing to keep in mind is this chart itself does not have any indication or have any reference to your data. This is just showing you visually what is actually going to be shown on your screen. So if we hit run to preview this, okay, we get some different information. Okay, now we have it by the years, so now we could change the scope if we wanted to, or I should say the scale of it. Not going to. Didn't put any titles in it, which is fine. So now let's say we put it in here. We have a bar chart. I don't really like a bar chart. I want to change it. So if we right click it, we change it to chart type. If we select, say, the line chart, hit OK, and then preview. Looks like a line chart. The reason why we didn't have to change anything is because the data is still the same. We still have the values, we still have the category groups, and we have the sales or the series groups. That one didn't look so hot, so let's try a different one here. Let's try the area, just for something to do. Let's see what that shows us. Okay, still not so hot. Our data isn't the best anyway, so anyway, you get the idea that you can just simply change the chart by changing the type via here. So let's go back up. Let's change it to a 3D cylinder. As I said before, this is kind of like where it's going into the page. You can see that. Okay, that looks fine and dandy, but the information's hidden back behind 1, 2, and 3 because they're so large for this particular one. So let's go back in here. I'm actually going to change the order here. I'm going to change it by, I'm going to go by category groups and series. So the series go, so the months go into the page, or into the page itself. Now you can see a little better. You can see the other ones behind it. And this is just the years going across the page. Okay, now let's just switch this to a pie chart. Let's just see what it looks like with all this data on it. We grab the pie chart, we hit OK. We're going to leave everything the same. Currently, we're going to run. Okay, that's kind of a mess at this point in time. Like, if I put any sort of labels on there, it's going to get overridden. It's going to be hard to read. One thing that they recommend is that you have no more than 7 data points to compare on a pie chart. Well, we have years in here, and there's only 3 years, so let's actually get rid of the months here. And I'm going to get that by just clicking on it and hitting the delete key. Our chart changed already, so let's do this. Let's preview it. Hey, look, we have more data it's readily available here. So now let's actually put some data labels on it. We right click and hide that. Now I'm going to hover over this, right click, and I'm going to put the label properties here. Let's change the number. So if we go to the number, I'm going to put no decimal places. We're going to use a 1000 separator, and actually we're going to show the values in thousands. Here, let's actually show this as a currency. So if we go back up here, we hit preview. Now we can see in thousands, and if you wanted to, you could even change the title. To something like sales by year in thousands. Whoops. Anyway, and that works just fine and dandy. And if you want to, we can preview this by the month, which again is hard to read because there's more than 7. Okay, now we're going to go on to sparklines and data bars. So if we open the other one here, no, we don't want to change this. We want to go to the template. Our data set's the same, looks like same information. We're going to add a matrix. What I want to do first is I want to insert a matrix in here. Now you notice there's 2 options. We have a table or a matrix. If we insert this by the wizard, it's both a new table or a matrix. The only difference is if you add a table, you specify the number of columns that are going to show up, and that column never changes until you change it. If you do it via a matrix, the matrix will expand itself based off of the information that's presented to it in the data, and we'll get to that in just a second. So we select the data set, we hit next, we grab the sum totals, we put them in the values, we're going to put the months over in the columns, and we're going to put the row groups as years. Blocked is fine. Let's go with generic. As you can see in here, there are 3 rows. Let's do a little housekeeping, make this easier to read. Currency, no decimal points with a column in between. Let's preview the data. See on the design view of this, there's only 3 months, or there's only 3 columns, but due to the fact this is a matrix, it actually blows out. There's 12 columns in here plus a total. As you can see, our formatting worked right. So let's insert a Sparkline into the tablets here. Okay, now what is a Sparkline? A Sparkline is mainly used to show a trend. And in this case, I'm going to right click, hit insert column to the right. I'm going to display this a little bit farther. We go to insert Sparkline. Be careful where you put your Sparkline because that's where it's going to display. We're going to show it as a line. If we hit OK, you can see the information there. Now, if I previewed it at this point in time, it would not display anything because we haven't tied it to any information. So if we click it again, we get our value chart data again here. Let's put our sum totals into the chart data. We don't need to group it because there's nothing to group it here. It's just a simple line. So if we hit preview again now, you can see the column added to the right where it shows the representation of the data that's to the left of it. To take that a little bit farther, let us add a data bar. So we do the right thing. We right click, insert column to the right. I'm going to expand it a little bit here because I don't care about how long the pages are. So if we go to insert, we're going to go to a data bar. Again, be careful where you put it because it will show whatever information you have listed there. We're going to use a horizontal bar here because the vertical one obviously would make the thing grow a little big and we don't want to do that. So we hit OK. Again, we have to select it and tell it what value we want to show. So we add the same thing in here. So now we can slide to the right here. We can see visually, based off of the information here, this shows us actually the data bar for the total. What that and actually comparatively shows us the size between it. Now the benefits to this would say is if you had a situation where you had 4 or 5 pages of this information and you're looking for either the largest or the smallest, you could put this on here and have it visually. You could scan to see, oh, here's the one that got here's the biggest one. Okay, here's the information. You're not scanning down the total line looking for the biggest number. You're scanning looking for, oh, that's visually there's the biggest one, or visually there's the smallest one. That would be the purpose of a data bar. So next, let's take a look at indicators and gauges. So let's open the indicator template here. The indicator is a visual indicator so that you can quickly make decisions as to, for an example in this case would be, are they making quota or not? Indicators can be based on percents or values. So now again, let's start with same data sort, same data. Let's insert again. Let's insert a matrix again. Let's put the information back in here. We go sum totals, groups, and rows. For fun, let's just leave it as ocean. Again, my LCD is telling me I got to do this, so information displays properly. We have the information. So now we come up here, we click in here, we right click on the header, insert column to the right, and we are going to insert an indicator. So if we come up here, we go to an indicator, and again, be careful where you drop it. We're going to drop it in the data. Now it comes up this nice pick. Now one of the ones that I like is this symbol right here, but you can pick any one of them. You can do whatever you want. We grab that. Again, we have to click in here, and we need to identify what value we're going to look at. And I'm going to make this bigger just so it's easier to see. And before we go on, we need to change the indicator properties. And the reason why is because on default, it defaults to percentage change. The bottom 33%, the middle 33%, and then the remaining 44% show up on the top. We are going to show this via as a numeric. So we want to show this up to $400,000. 4, 5, 6, and then between up to 600,000, and then no top point. Let's hit OK, and if we run, this is a good indicator. Say, hey, here's your minimum you have to meet. Say the minimum is $400,000. Okay, he's got a big red X in here. He hasn't made it yet. We have a problem. The middle one between 400,000 and 600,000. Hey, you've met your qualifications. Maybe there's a bonus involved. Green check is, hey, there's a bonus. So now let's throw another item in here. Let's throw a gauge in here. There's another way of displaying this, so let's actually throw a gauge in here, or per se, hey, there's a massive bonus we want to put in here. So let's throw this in. Let's grab. We're going to grab a gauge. I'm going to drop it in the same spot. Because we're still within this matrix, I'm going to make it a bullet graph so that it goes along the same horizontal graph here. We're going to make it easier so it's bigger to read. So if I be careful, especially on this one, you have to be careful where you click because there's so many items. And it tells you right up here where it is. So if we come over here, we want to grab the sum totals. We want to change the graph here now. So if we change this scale, if we change the scale properties to 1 million, okay, let's not show the labels, just make it easier to read. If we hit run, just like the data bar, is comparing it. It's basically its representation based off of the largest one. Then everything gets kind of scrunched down, so it's all comparable. Again, this is another one where I can show you how to visually represent the information, so you're not looking at dollars or some other figure. I'm sure there's probably a way where you can actually set this so that you can change the colors, do other things like that. There's also a way in here, if you wanted to, with this group, is if you wanted to change your values, like I have values in there. If you want to put a function in there, you could insert a function. So if you want to have some sort of special percentage or whatever, or however you want to put it, if it's based off of somebody else's sales or whatever, there are ways you can put a function in there so you get the same functionality. So that is how you add indicators and graphs and indicators, or gauges and indicators. So now we're finally, that's the last one, we're going to look at how to insert a map. So we grab the map template here. Okay, we have a data source, goes back to our data. I strongly suggest using a shared data source so that if you have to change the data source at some point in time, you need to move your SQL server from one to the other, you only have to do it in one location versus doing it on every report. So, okay, the data set we have here is the customer data, where we want to know how many customers are in each state. So in this case, we're going to insert a map. So we grab the map, we're going to grab the map wizard. There are several different options we have here. We can do the exploded version or the inset. Let's just do the inset one. This will show you how big it shows represented on the screen. We're going to do the bubble map. We hit next. Select our customer data. Now this looks like it's a lot of information to show on here, but it's not. The bottom data is actually our own data set, so it shows what information we have currently available. The top two are used in conjunction with each other so you can determine which one it is. The state FP is the UPS number that's attached to each state. I don't have that number in here. The state UPS or USPS is the standard 2-character representation for each state. Looks like I got that. Or you can do it by state name if you actually have the whole state name in your database plugged out, so you can show it any of the ways. Since we have the 2 characters, we're going to collect that. It highlights in the center here. Now we need to select the field. So we select the state here. So now they line up, so the information will actually show on our map properly. You can change the color of your map simply by grabbing this. Let's do the forest. What do I want to show? In this case, I want to show the count of the state. How many customers are in each state? And while we're at it, let's show the labels. And the labels, let's show the labels. Let's just show the numbers so that we know how many are in each one. If we hit finish, we can make it bigger if we want, so it's easier to see. And in this case, it looks like Minnesota and Illinois are the big winners for customers. And with that, that is the end of the demonstration. Thank you very much for your time, and have a good day.